Thanks for tuning into the Hidden Tracks podcast. You can find us wherever you find podcasts or listen to music. When you have an opportunity, please give us a 5-star review, write a little note, tell us how we're doing. We really appreciate it. It helps us keep this thing going. If you want to reach out to us, you can find us at Facebook at Hidden Tracks. Instagram is at HiddenTracks99, and if you'd like to send in submissions or talk to us or give us any feedback about what we're doing, our email is myhiddentracks99@gmail.com. Thank you so much again for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the show.
And screaming cars can drown you out, make you forget who you are. But don't run to lonely places like everybody does, like everybody does. Buildings seem to fall apart, the winter blows before it starts. You're feeling this Sunday season. You're sleeping when you've got your days to make yourself look new again. You're feeling this Sunday season. Oh, 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 oh. Why did you end up here? This city speaks, but you're silent in your fear. You search these streets for pleasure, but that's not how worth is measured first. Buildings seem to fall apart, the winter blows before it starts. You're feeling this Sunday season. You're sleeping when you got your days to make yourself look new again. You're feeling this Sunday season. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh. Looking for another way, looking for another way, looking for a way to find your meaning, to find your meaning, your meaning, your meaning. Buildings seem to fall apart, the winter blows before it starts. You're feeling this Sunday season. You're sleeping when you've got your days to make yourself look new again. You're feeling this Sunday season. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh.
What's up, everybody? I got Adam from Chamberlain here today. A lot of you may have heard the story. One of the greatest concert experiences of my life was walking past the Wonder Bar down in Asbury Park, New Jersey, on my way to go see The Darkness at Asbury Lanes, and then seeing that Chamberlain was playing at the Wonder Bar at the same time, and I was extremely disappointed. but I got to luck out and walked out of the darkness, walked over to the Wonder Bar, walked in, and Chamberlain was just going on stage. So I had an awesome 2 for night of music, and it was the first time in 20 years that I had seen them play, and just got an awesome experience with a Chamberlain show in Boonton. Nice acoustic set, which was awesome. And I got to talk to Adam, and now he's here on the show. So after that long drawn out introduction, welcome to the show, Adam.
Oh, hey, thanks. Yeah, I didn't know you had a close call there in Asbury Park, but yeah, glad you caught it.
Yeah, it was awesome. I was with 5 other people, 4 of which had never heard of Chamberlain before, and I said, "We're going in. I'm not missing this." And when we walked out and you guys were done, everyone was like, "Well, now I know who fucking Chamberlain is," and that was one of the coolest fucking things I've ever seen in my life. So got you, 4 new fans right from doing what you do so well.
Nice. I mean, we're old men, so new fandom is hard to come by.
Yeah,
so I appreciate that.
we are old men, so we'll probably be waxing poetically about the past for a while. But
Sure.
what led to that whole acoustic? It was a rare performance for you and David to do this thing in a small coffee shop in the middle of Boonton, New Jersey.
Well, I know Craig, who books that thing or that venue, that series, reached out because I know him, and it was just one of those things where David and I have always, usually when we start to write a song, it's usually David and I with a couple acoustic guitars, and every once in a while we'll do like acoustic performances after a show, whether it's backstage for a fan or out in the parking lot. So it was I had a feeling that David would want to do it because it was a chance to like finally sort of capture that vibe in a rehearsed and sort of more refined way. But yeah, it was totally unexpected. We didn't really have any plans this year, so it was nice to at least quote unquote play a show as Chamberlain to some extent.
Well, it was a brilliant performance by the both of you, and it was really cool to have that very intimate setting. That it's something that a lot of bands don't have that opportunity to do that, right, throughout their career, and some, for some reason or another, maybe they don't want to do it, but the way you guys conducted yourself through that performance was amazing, and it was a show that I'll never forget. So I just want to say thank you for allowing yourselves to do that and put that out there for the fans. So thank you.
Oh no, thanks for everyone that came. People, as always, like the people that are Chamberlain fans tend to travel, and it was great that Boonton's sort of in the middle of central New Jersey, but people travel from all over, and people like yourself and everyone that was there made it totally worth it to play for like an attentive audience of people that knew our songs and all that. It was great.
Now, did you ever foresee yourself, especially, a young kid in Indiana growing up and starting in a, post-hardcore band, such a split lip, think that you would be where you are today with all you've done through music, through film and advertising and composition and stuff? Did you ever foresee that as your future or want that when you were growing up?
Well, I mean, in all honesty, when you're a kid and you start playing guitar, you have, the sort of cliche big dreams. Like I thought I would be, I would have had like, several dozen albums in a gigantic home studio in Malibu or something somewhere. I mean, I thought, I had rock star dreams for lack of a better term. So yeah, I did. I guess I didn't foresee the way, things have played out. But I am like, kind of amazed that my career is still music, all these years later. And, even though I didn't, end up with the, giant rock star studio, I still consider myself lucky to be, still involved in music in general.
Without those rock star dreams, though, was that something you, especially what you're doing now with stuff, is that what you wanted to do when it came to music, or besides being, having that Malibu mansion and touring the world every single day and having fallen dreams and throwing TVs out of hotel rooms, was was this a better option to land? Do you feel maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have wanted things to kind of go any other way. And to clarify, yeah, Malibu just seemed like that's where it just seemed like the cliche place for a successful rock and roll musician to end up. I don't really know if it was Malibu. To be honest, it might have just been Indiana. But just yeah, things have obviously I'm a father. I have a great family and a great career in music, and the way things have worked out, I don't think I could have wished for better. And the fact that we started this band when we were, man, I was like 14 years old, and it's no band ever breaks up anymore.
They just go
like
on a hiatus.
Yes, like it's a pinchable moment sometimes when we're on stage that like it's still going on, and there's still like enough of a fan base out there that it warrants us getting together and making music. And we still write, we still trade MP3s back and forth on text chains and all that. So yeah, it's life is a for lack of a better term, it's a strange journey.
Now, going back to your life, you went to 14 years old when you started getting into the band, but what was it for you earlier in life growing up? Did you grow up in a musical household? Was there music always on, or was it something that you kind of found on your own?
It's an interesting question, because I've always kind of wondered that a bit myself, because the answer is no. I mean, my brother also kind of got bit by the bug, and he started playing bass, and we used to always play Rush covers and stuff in the house together. But growing up, my parents, my dad, I knew my mom liked Simon and Garfunkel. I knew my dad liked Johnny Cash. Every once in a while on family road trips, cassette tape would go into the station wagon. But no, it was not an overtly musical house at all. I've often wondered where I caught the bug, or how I caught the bug.
So if you try to look back to see how or when you did catch the bug, do you remember what it was that you heard that changed your thoughts about music? Like, was it for me, I always go back to I was 6 years old and I heard the Beach Boys, and my life was forever changed in music, and just I dove directly into music from that point on. But do you have anything like that for you as a kid that just set you off, that you found and you're like, I really need to keep going with finding music?
Well, I mean, it's a complicated question. It's a little bit embarrassing, but I think I fell in love with music. I think I wanted a guitar because of MTV and because of the age that I was. We got. I
don't think that's embarrassing. We got. That's what we had.
I know, but some of the early videos, for those to be super inspired by, a lot of sort of 80s cheesemo. But there's also great stuff that came out of the 80s. I'd see videos from like the Police and Men at Work and a lot of the new wave stuff. I mean, it definitely caught my ear early. And I was like, man, I was mesmerized by watching a guy like Andy Summers. I think the Synchronicity 2 video, he's playing guitar on top of like a mountain of electric guitars, and I was like, whoa. Like there's this Beavis moment where I was just like, man, like I want one of those. So for my 9th birthday, my parents got me a guitar, but of course they got me like this nylon string
I was just going to say it had to have been a nylon string.
Yeah, junior guitar, and then got me lessons at the local guitar shop. And the first songs, I learned were stuff like Hot Cross Buns and When the Saints Go Marching In, and just trying to play, trying to learn a musical instrument in a sort of formal way. And to be honest, I put the guitar down after about a year because it was just too frustrating and not fun. And, I wasn't playing Synchronicity too. I was playing Mary Had a Little Lamb. So, it was a bummer, but, eventually, the guitar kind of just hung out in my room, and I would pick it up every once in a while. And then, one of the first songs I ever remember playing is, The Boxer by, Simon and Garfunkel, because it's just like a C chord and, an F chord, just basic first position chords. And I kind of learned how to sing the la 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 in the A minor. And I was like, holy moly, like I'm singing a song. And then from there, it's like that, it just took off from there, because I realized you didn't need to know all the fundamentals to play rock and roll. I had to kind of figure that out on my own. I didn't have like a mentor or anyone showing me how to do it.
That's awesome. Now, I had this moment. I know a lot of other people had this moment when you do finally figure it out. Were you naturally running around looking for other people? I mean, you said your brother played bass, so you had that person in your house, but to run out and find someone who could play drums and start a band, regardless of what was going to happen.
Well, my sister and I would write songs together, and we had a little Casio, like one of those, I forgot what they're called, but the little keyboard with the sampler and stuff that made the fart noises and all that. Well, we would write songs together and do like shows for our parents. So like my sister was the first person that I kind of started like performing with. But then as a family, we moved to Brussels, and I met this dude Carlo, who became my closest friend, and he was 2 years older than me and a much better guitar player than me, and he was a metalhead, and together we just fell down the metal rabbit hole, and we would go to the record stores and anything with a demonic looking cover, whether it was like Blessed Death or Death Angel or Satan, like we would just buy like the meanest records we could find. And then of course we love Metallica and Anthrax and Exodus and all the thrash metal stuff. But yeah, I mean, sitting around listening to records and trying to learn songs with Carlo is what really got things started.
Did you and Carlo sit around and try to come up with your own band name?
Well, we did. We had a band.
What was that band name?
I can't believe I'm even talking about this. It was with a couple of other older guys that we went to high school or junior high school with. We called ourselves Access, and we performed once at like a school dance. And we were just terrible. I mean, none of us. The drummer had bought like a sonar kit that his parents had bought it for him, and I think he knew like 2 or 3 beats, and we just kind of recycled those and recycled the power chords that we knew how to play, and called ourselves a band. But that was very short lived, super short lived. But that was a segue into punk rock, right? I mean, not to ask your questions for you, but when I moved back to Indiana, I got into skateboarding too, and through the kind of the skateboarding scene, I met a lot of other musicians, and punk rock was sort of like introduced to me, and I was like, oh man, like I can take all this metal stuff, all these power chords, all this, because thrash and punk are so closely related. And add some melody to it, and I was ready to go. I was ready to play punk rock.
And I mean, back in those days too, when it came to skateboarding and punk rock, it's synonymous, especially with the skate tapes that I remember trading around, and there was always punk rock, and that's how I found a lot of music as a kid, was from those tapes. And having that metal and punk rock background that you were falling in love with, and I always like to go back to this, and it's sounds like a broken record here, but that community that you're almost pretty much automatically accepted once you're there, it is a good thing, especially for a teenager at that time.
Yeah, you're automatically, especially in suburban Indianapolis. Um, it was almost like I don't want to say a cult, but it was a select sort of brotherhood of people that were into that kind of stuff. Like, because it weirdly took some courage to be sort of counterculture when everyone else was just sort
Yeah.
of playing sports, and I think you formed a bond with people that were just a little bit different. They were interested in different stuff.
Yeah, I say not only more fun to be around, but sometimes it's I'd just say more interesting than being on a sport team. You're learning things and you're finding out different things, and I think there's such a bigger culture when it comes to music and skateboarding and stuff like that to dive into so many different things and not have to worry about it because no one's going to judge you on diving into crazy lengths, or you telling people that you loved thrash metal and had a band with Carlo called Access. So
I still can't believe we're talking about this, but yeah, yeah, I just haven't thought about that band. I never really considered it a band, but it is part of
it's part of your lore. It's part of your history. It's part of your musical career, right?
Well, really, I consider my first band a band called Decrepit, which was a punk band that I sang for, and we recorded some cassette tapes that we recorded on jam boxes, and we did one on like a little Radio Shack 4-channel mixer, and I would go to punk shows and like hand them out to people, and it had
Did you throw them in envelopes and mail them to any labels or fanzines?
Well, no, we did have a review of Maximum Rock and Roll, which blew me away as a like 14-year-old kid. And it was okay. The review was okay, but yeah, it was more just oh man, there's just a purity about it. We just wanted people to hear our songs, and like it was, to date myself, obviously it's way before the internet.
Yeah.
So like that's just what you did. You had to figure out a way to.
Well, you said cassette tapes, so I'm sure everybody listening knows it's well before the internet.
Yes.
And I said, did you mail those out? So yeah, that's where.
Yeah, I mean, nobody mail ordered them. We didn't get that advanced, but I did mail one out to be reviewed, and it got reviewed, like I said, by Maximum Rock and Roll. And I found that issue recently, and it still like kind of was like this that thing you do type like moment where I still kind of feel that when I look at the review. Like it was super exciting because you felt like you made something and someone that you didn't know listened to it, and that's what it was all about.
I mean, there's nothing better than that, right? And the first time you get acknowledgement from a stranger is that feeling, besides playing for your friends, everybody grows up and you're playing for your friends, or you're playing at a school talent show and everybody knows you there. But that first time a stranger's just like, hey, it's pretty good. I mean, that changes your life and kind of pushes you forward, right?
Yeah, and it still does. I'll admit, like, just I don't know if it's if you want to call it adulation, but just recognitions, I think, is a better word. Even if I'm working on a film score, sometimes I'll just look at Twitter to see if anyone says something after viewing a documentary. If anyone says anything about the music, I still get sort of not goosebumps, but I get it still feels like a pinchable moment sometimes, when you create something in your home studio or wherever, and it ends up airing anywhere. It's exciting.
And from that moment on, after having this glowing review in Maxim Rock and Roll,
it wasn't glowing. It just was not negative. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, that's glowing when you're when you're sending out tapes, and you started a punk band at 14, and you also have to take that into account. You're 14, right? People don't understand that 14 is very young. It really is, to have anything of any semblance of a career or creating something. A lot of 14-year-olds don't do that unless they're stupid TikTok stars nowadays. But back then, it took hard work and determination.
Yeah, it did. When I look back, it was a lot of hard work, but of course, it didn't feel like it. Because it was, I'm in a room with like two of my closest friends, making a bunch of noise, and writing songs. Like it didn't feel like, but we spent a lot of time doing it. Of course, it was a lot of work.
Now, after that happened, what was your next step and next progression in music from there?
Well, honestly, so Decrepit and Split Lip played a couple shows together. Because Split Lip, before there was David, there's another singer named Steve, and I wasn't in the band. I'm actually not technically not an original member of the band. But I don't remember how it all really went down, but at some point, Curtis, the bass player from Chamberlain, had just asked me to come play with Split Lip, and I did that. And then David was sort of part of the, he skated too. He was sort of part of the scene. David kind of sat in on our practice one day, and we were all kind of like, "Oh, David's better than Steve." So who wants to kick out Steve?
Who got the honor?
I think I did. It's a long story, but I the guys could correct me if I'm wrong. I believe I was the one that broke the news to Steve, because Steve and I got in some childhood like physical altercation, and I don't know. There was a knee to the groin at one point. I don't remember exactly what happened, but Steve was out.
So it's comeuppance, right? So
Yeah.
the new guy kicks out the original guy. So I mean, wow! Look at you. You just coming in and just breaking shit up.
Yeah, exactly. Just busting balls.
Yeah.
I wish Charlie from the band was here, because Charlie plays drums in Chamberlain, because he remembers all this stuff vividly. But I seem to remember that I may have been the one, and it might have just been sort of like, it might have just unfolded that way. We just were hanging out, and it was unspoken, like as a lot of things happen when you're really young, because you don't know how to deal with your emotions.
Yeah.
We might have just started jamming with David more, and that was just the way it went.
Steve walked in and it like felt like he was being cheated on, and David's there doing all the songs, and it's like, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you, you're gone.
Yeah, it could have been that too, but I could be misremembering. But yeah, there was a little kerfuffle though. I do remember that, so I feel like that was the impetus.
All right. Well, I like the story that you kicked him out, and after some childhood tomfoolery that had been happening between you two, you took it upon yourself and just kicked him out of the band and said, "I got somebody better."
Yeah, and and he's a great guy. I don't know what it was all about.
Now, from there, did you feel an immediate difference, like in the music, in the sense of what you guys were doing? Did it feel different immediately once you started playing with Split Lip?
Yeah, and I was sort of like freed. I never, I sang. I was the singer of Decrepit. I never really fashioned myself as a singer, so it was like we really fell into our roles like instantaneously, and I just got to be sort of the maestro, like songwriter. I used to bring all the riffs and stuff to the band, and then David was such an amazing lyricist, and David, he read poetry, and it was all new to us, so he had his role, and Curtis was the guy who booked the shows, and I don't want to get into everyone's roles have kind of stayed static over the years a little bit. I mean, I've evolved a little bit, and when I got older, I kind of got more involved in the for lack of a better word, sort of organizational end of things with the band.
Well,
but
in the early days, everybody has to have a job. When you're a band starting out, everyone has to have a job in the band.
Yeah. And I think it worked really well for us, because we all kind of understood our roles sort of early on, and it did feel like an organization, and we had lots of friends, and people that would stand on the side of the stage, and we were, before we knew it, we had T-shirts, and we were starting to draw people to our shows, and then it kind of got real. We started traveling, we started going out of town, starting with like shows in Louisville, and then we started playing regional shows in St. Louis and Dayton and Toledo and places like that. And before we knew it, we were all over the place.
It came a long way from putting down the guitar because it was too hard.
Yes.
In a short period of time.
Yeah, and then I was just guitar obsessed. Because what I was going to say is when Split Lip got together, it was like the roles were defined, so like I didn't have to think about lyrics and melodies and playing and singing at the same time. So like I was happy, like I was in my element, and I think it's why we uh, I think even early on we wrote like just a diverse batch of songs because everybody could just sort of experiment and concentrate on what they did best.
Being as young as you were and starting to travel, I mean, how did that all come about? And was your family okay with you going somewhere other than a local area?
No, I mean the first couple of shows we played, like my parents wouldn't allow me to be in a car with someone that was 16.
Yeah.
So I mean, our first show in Louisville, I want to say Curtis's mom drove Charlie and I, but then those other shows where my dad drove us to a show in Bloomington. My mom drove us to another show. I believe in Dayton. That was short lived. That was not like sustainable. But yeah, and then the first time we ever went on tour, we had to take our friend Issa with us, who was 21, because Issa could rent the van, and we had like a meeting at my parents' house, and I was a sophomore in high school when we did our first summer tour, and it's kind of amazing because I was 15 or 16 when we did our first tour, and I have to. As a parent now, it's hard to believe my parents allowed it to happen, but I'm very grateful they did. But they let us, go. They let me go on tour.
That's crazy to think about.
Yeah, and if I recall, we went coast to coast. It was hot. It was dangerous. I mean, we drove all night. Rarely did we stay in a hotel room or anything like that. We'd sleep, in the grass at rest areas. Like it was nothing that my parents would not have been pleased had they seen what really went down.
So you come home from that first tour. What did you have? Just the vision of this is what I'm going to do. This is it. Like that just proved to me that this is where I want my life to go.
Yeah, and I still had 3 years left of high school. Like it was, it was this was our football squad. This is what we did extracurricularly. So I just assumed, and at that point, like midway through high school, we were drawing almost like 1,000 kids locally to like the community center. I just assumed, like I said, I was joking about the rock star dreams,
yeah.
but like it came fast because we were, successful at this sort of micro level. And then, we'd play a show in Boston or something, and like people started singing the words and you could see them in the audience. And it, I realized I had come a long way from the cassette tape that I'd mailed to Maximum Rock and Roll.
Yeah, and that was right at the beginning of CDs starting to fold out, because I remember getting a Split Lip CD at my local record store and the guy being like, hey, you got to check this out. And I did. And then suffice at the time, because the internet's still not around, it's like always waiting for some more Split Lip. And then there was a album there. It said Chamberlain on it, and it says formerly Split Lip. And I was like, what the fuck is this? And it blew me away in a completely different way than Split Lip did, because it was just a mature, to me, it was just a more mature level for Split Lip. What was it for you guys to make that change, that drastic change from Split Lip to Chamberlain?
Well, I mean, like I said, I was, my first love was metal. So when you listen to the Split Lip stuff, it definitely is, much of it is very like metal influenced, in the same way that a lot of bands we were playing with were, right, in the hardcore scene. There's a lot of metal in Burn or Snapcase or
Yeah, who I'll be seeing on Friday. I'm excited.
oh, cool. But Integrity, like a lot of the bands we ended up finding ourselves on bills with were like, much heavier. And I think we all just, we grew up in a hurry because we like to experiment with music, and we got more and more into melody, and sort of, it was like the early emo wave, so to speak. It wasn't because when we loved bands like Sam I Am and Into Another, and bands that Dag Nasty, bands that use melody.
Yeah.
We all love that stuff. But it was also because David started this. David was obsessed with Bob Dylan, and I was obsessed with Elvis Costello and the Police, and I'm gonna get the chronology all wrong. I don't want to get into everyone's tastes, but like, yeah, we anyway, it just came down to melody. We wanted the energy of punk, but we wanted the melodic sensibilities of a lot of like more classic influences that we were listening to in the van and stuff. So I think that kind of like became labeled as emo,
Yeah.
just that aggroness, that energy, and that fervor, combined with using traditional, like, first position, cowboy chords and stuff like that.
Did you feel any different about yourself when you would go out to shows and maybe people would expect to see Split Lip, but you're now Chamberlain, and it was completely different to them? Was there any pushback by any fans at that time that voiced their opinion to you?
Oh, absolutely. It's like we're a band that's just like we're a slow burn in terms of of getting to finding an affinity for our records. Like I remember, like in the first Split Lip record, I thought the song "Sleep" was like, no one's gonna like this. This is way too melodic. I listen to it now, I'm like, oh my god, we're playing a million miles an hour. Like, we were a punk band. Of course, we were a punk band. But people like that record, and people are like, I like the Split Lip band. And then we put out Fate's Got a Driver as Split Lip, but really we knew it was something different. So we wanted to really demark the change. So we changed the name to Chamberlain, re-released the record, and though I've heard from people, they were like, oh man, it's not as good as Split Lip. It's not as dark and metally, and I don't like it as much. But I think ultimately people liked that record better. But that's just one of these like stubborn things that we've done. We love to alienate the people that love us in the name of creativity, And then when we put out the Move My Saddle, it was just like we'd been in college, and we weren't really listening to we were listening to sort of like indie rock and classic rock, and we just sort of played the music we loved, which was nothing like Fate's Got a Driver. But we were still playing shows in that scene, and our Rolodex of promoters and stuff hadn't changed, but the music had.
Yeah, well, that's what I think is beautiful about everyone in the band, and what you've created, and how everything was. It was just like a new step. Here's a new venture. Here's where we are now. And I love when bands do that and can do it successfully. And in my eyes, you've done it successfully from where you were to where you are now, from the last record, Red Weather. It's just this whole maturation process of kind of, I got to grow up with you, right? And we're probably around the same age, and I got to follow all those steps along the way and see to where you are now. And it's just it's a long flower, it's a long bloom for a flower. And it just got to the point now where I'm just like, they can't do anything wrong.
Oh, I appreciate that. I mean, that's the hope. And, I think that's the fans we have that sort of been with us since the beginning. It's sort of like, we feel close to all of them, and they feel close to us reciprocally, because of precisely that. We've all been the flower that's grown up together. I mean, you think about Red Weather, we didn't know what the hell it was going to sound like. David and I had tossed together out some ideas, and we kind of went into the studio with it relatively unwritten. But you have to understand, like, we had done some stuff, the Gaslight Anthem reunion and Burning Fight, and we'd played together, but we were all sort of like respectively like raising families and
you have life.
Yeah, like living a life separate from the punk rock scene. So when we got back together, it's like, of course, it's just going to sound completely out of left field, if you know the band. But I mean, I think it translates for the listener that it really does come from a place that's pure and is just a genuine love of music. We're five friends, writing music, that trying to find a compromise and trying to find songs we all collectively love. And we were recording that record with our good friend Carl, who we also grew up with. So yeah, there's just kind of how we've always done things.
Yeah.
I don't know what else there is to say about that.
No, it was an awesome moment too, because I remember getting a phone call from a friend who, knows how deep I am into music, and he goes, "Hey, did you hear this band Chamberlain and this album Red Weather?" I'm like, "Yeah, you mean the band I've been trying to get you into for 20 fucking years?" I'm like, "Yes, I heard it. My copy showed up the day it came out." I'm like, "It's fucking brilliant." He goes, "Yeah, I guess I'll just say I'm sorry because I should have been listening to him." I'm like, yeah, thanks, man.
Well, I appreciate that "I told you so" attitude, but
yeah.
I try not to dwell on that. We're not the only band in the history of music that's been, there's been bands that are far better than us that have been, overlooked, if you want to use that word, or underrated, if you want to use that word. But in the end, I still find it amazing. We went over to Europe in 2019 and sold out a show in Berlin, and not the biggest venue in the world, but we're in Berlin and people know our songs, and people are wearing our shirts and buying our records, and
those are the moments, right?
Yeah,
those are them.
So like I try to, I mean, one of the things, I have a friend that we always talk about, a theme that always comes up is like, how does one define success? And I think that's something that it's easy to get caught up in, especially in like the universe we live in now, where everybody's braggadocious about everything that they're doing in social media, and you tend to think that, oh man, like my life's not as good as that, like I'm not doing as much, but like, you have to define success, and I have to keep telling myself, like, no, I've done a lot of cool shit. I didn't get the I don't know why I came up with this analogy earlier in this interview. The studio in Malibu. Yeah. The studio in Malibu didn't happen, but it doesn't mean that
that you didn't make it.
Yeah, that I did. I haven't had my share of many victories.
Well, along the way too, I mean, your love of creation never stopped. I mean, when the band, Since Bands Don't Break, went on hiatus, I mean, you had your solo stuff, the Dear Lion stuff, which is, if people haven't heard it, it is just beautiful. I love it. And there's something to be said about that it was almost like your thirst for creation and the feeling of never being satisfied, because you don't stop creating and stop making music, even in times where people may have at some point just been like, well, I guess everybody's gone and who knows what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I say this a lot, but I always equate it as like, catching some sort of bug or disease. Like it just, you may go into remission for a little while, but like eventually it comes back up, and like you got to do something about it to keep it at bay. It's this sort of, the quote unquote itch. Obviously, like I'm in a room, I'm surrounded by guitars everywhere, and like, you always have an itch to just pick one up and make something. And, I have an itch to, write stuff. So like I'll write a song and then all of a sudden I'll write another song. I'm like, shit, I've written like 15 songs. Like I gotta get them out of my system. Because that's the antidote. I've always just been that way. I don't know why. So yeah, I've done like 3 solo records, and yeah, there was the Dear Lions. Charlie and I did another band together called Bad Mood Music at one point. And yeah, I just I don't know. Yeah, sorry, I'm going on a tangent. I don't know what else to say, but it's just what you do. Someone asked like Bruce Springsteen. I saw an interview once, like a 60 Minutes interview, where the interviewer asked Bruce Springsteen, he's like, "You're 60 plus years old, like you've done it all. You've seen the world, you've had the hits. Like, why still do it? Why still go on the road? Why?" And Bruce just says, "Well, what do you suggest I do?" It was just like this moment. I'm like, yeah, exactly. Like, It's just, you play music. It's just what you do. You don't need to stop or say, I'm too old or I'm too young or this isn't going to have an outlet or this won't have an outlet, or, you shouldn't get lost in that stuff and just, create. If your brain says create, and see what happens. Otherwise you'll never know.
When you did go into that solo realm, did you find it harder or easier to create? Because sometimes you need that person to tell you if something's good or not good. Did you just say, this is what I'm doing now and move forward? Or did you kind of get into that internal struggle sometimes when deciphering what songs you wanted to work with?
Oh, it's both. I mean, it's much easier to write, a record unattached on your own. But then, I did like a solo tour. I'd done a couple in Europe, and I remember just thinking like, this sucks. Like, this is lonely. Like, I'm riddled with self-doubt, and I don't know if anything I do is good or worthy. And but it's there's no fights in the practice room either, so it goes both ways. But
you don't fight with yourself in the mirror like I do sometimes.
Well, yeah, there's that, and that's the nice thing about making Red Weather is, man, like it's just spending a lot of time apart. David and all the guys, and myself, I'll always say like, God, like it was just, David kept saying throughout the whole process, he's like, well, majority rules. Like if an idea came out and one person liked it or one person didn't like it, we'd kind of just vote on stuff. And it was like, okay, that was how it went. 4-1. Like, you guys don't like the song, let's go on to the next song. It was amazing. I wish things could have like always been like that, because we would have been like mad productive.
Now, going back to your earlier days in life, do you remember the first concert you ever went to?
I think the first, it's much cool. Well, I think the first concert I ever went to was actually Rod Stewart. It was like but it was like,
that's pretty badass.
Yeah, it was like Rod Stewart and Mr. at it was like part of a like a state fair my parents had taken me to. And I don't know if we stayed for the whole thing, but I remember being mesmerized by that show. But the first
one you got to pick then.
Yeah, I mean the first time I ever went out, got tickets, was Metallica on the Injustice for All tour. That was the first time Queensryche opened up. The first time I had just like gone to a real concert. I was super young. I had an older brother, so my older brother and his friends. So, did some things I should not have been doing. I was 12.
Drinking Pepsi after 10 o'clock at night. Let's just put it there. It is.
Exactly. But I just remember I lost my mind. I remember like seeing Kirk Hammett walk out on stage and just kind of like, thinking that he looked at me and that we had some kind of connection. And that they, it felt like they knew me. I'd listened to like, Master of the Puppets and Justice for All so many times. I just felt like, this band, obviously we know each other, right? Like,
yeah.
It was like you were at that impressionable age where it felt like out of body. So yeah, that's the answer to that question on first concert.
That's awesome. Did you have a concert, whether or not you performed at it or whether or not you got to see it, that stands out for good or bad that you'll never forget about besides that Metallica show?
Oh man, I don't think I can answer that without having a long, hard think. I can get back to you on email about that.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean that one's definitely up there. You know, it's always the early ones, right? I think seeing Fugazi for the first time at the Ritz in Indianapolis was one that really stood out too, because I just remember they were all kind of close together on the stage in this bigger venue. And I just remember going back to band practice and just wanting to like move our gear close together and just like, you know, I remember being very impacted by that one. But there's so many. When you're young, you know, they all are, you know, earth shattering.
Oh, I get it. Now, throughout your illustrious career, so this may be hard to answer, but if you had to pick a song or two that you've been a part of or created that would best describe you as an artist, what song would you pick?
Oh, holy shit.
Call it Pick Your Favorite Child. That's how.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. It's tough. I mean, it might be a song. You know, when I first put out my first solo record, I put it out as Adam Dove. That is like the Hebrew name my parents gave me because I had a confidence issue. I didn't want to put a record under my own name. But the first song on that record is called Spirit Overboard, and it is precisely about, you know, stepping off a cliff and just doing something different. And it was just so new to me to just be like, you know, on my own and taking all the lessons and all of the knowledge that I had gotten from the punk rock scene and from playing in Split Lip and Chamberlain, and sort of, you know, that was the first song. So I think I would pick that one if I had to. It might not be my favorite song of all time that I've written. There's better ones, but that one meant a lot.
Yeah, and that's what I'm looking for. You know, what you think best describes you. That's the way you know, because I think the favorite song is usually different than the one that best describes you as an artist. I always find that they're always going to be different.
Yeah. It's hard. And then, you know, sort of the definitive song, I think for me, is a song called Sunday Season, which is on my first solo record with my own name. And that song is sort of, I'd moved to New York in 2001, and that's one of like the first song I wrote in New York. And it was sort of this next chapter again. And I feel like that song, and it seems to be the hit, like for my like solo stuff, that is like the hit, you know. And in terms of Chamberlain songs, I mean, that's, it'd probably be one of the newer. I mean, so it's a long answer for a singular question, but
I love long answers.
Oh well, then you're talking to the right guy. But yeah, not Your War, from the Red Weather record, I feel like is my favorite Chamberlain song.
Yeah, it's a brilliant song. And lyrically and the way it's played is just a beautiful mix that if you close your eyes, you can actually be taken somewhere different.
Oh, thanks, man. It was one of those songs, just the way it came together. It just felt like we were doing something new again. You know, it has that feeling to it where it just like, it feels like possibilities, you know, and when we were making it, I just was like, wow, there's possibilities. Maybe we're going to go on tour again. Maybe we're going to, you know, who knows what's going to happen. And then COVID happened, but
it did. It did. But you still got to go out and play some shows after that. So that's, you know,
we did. And the record is out there, and yeah, we're all super proud of it. And like,
you should be.
Yeah, oh, thank you. You know, and it was doing the whole Kickstarter thing and doing it all yourself was, you know, Curtis and I spent a zillion hours on the phone together trying to sort that thing out. And it was a lot of work, but like, I feel like, it was like worthy work.
Now, you bring up the Kickstarter thing. Was it, since it was something new for people to try to use. Did you feel at any time awkward? And I asked this question to people before too. So, but asking for, because I find myself always, it's hard for me to ever ask for help to do anything that I'm passionate about. But did you have that in the back of your mind? You're like, this is really weird what we're trying to do with this? Or was it like, hey, this is the only way we're going to get it done?
Oh, hell yeah. I made like a whole EPK about how weird I felt about it. But it was sort of like a necessity because there was a certain way we wanted to do it. There was a lot of travel involved. We, had to book studio time. Carl, who was making the record, we wanted to compensate him. And then, we wanted to like, we did it like in partnership with Arctic Rodeo, who, we've worked with on a couple things previously. But yeah, there was records to press to send all around the world. And, we did like t-shirts and books and like, I'm not justifying all of the money that people gave us, but it was an expenditure, and it was the only, there was a certain way we wanted to do it. And the only way to do it was to try to do the Kickstarter thing. And the other thing is, and, Curtis and I talked about this a lot. Is that the beautiful thing about it is like, the demand was built in because we all had, Charlie, Clay, Curtis, Dave, and myself, we all had a lot of self-doubt about it. Like, oh man, we're making this record like all these years later. Does anyone care? And the great thing about Kickstarter is it's like a big, we thought of it as just like a big pre-order, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're going to make this record and this is the pre-order. And now we know how many to make. It takes the guesswork.
But also, you know how hard you have to work because you see the love. And the way I look at it as a fan from the outside for it was, now I'm part of this record forever.
Oh, totally. I mean, I still like open up the jacket and I see everyone's names like in the liners, and like it does bring great joy like looking at it still, because it's like, oh, like, we all did this thing. And I remember, one of the greatest nights, if not the greatest night of the pandemic, was when we did like our listening party, and then we did like a little Zoom afterwards just to like chat with people about the record and stuff like that. Like, it felt like that sense of accomplishment was pretty cool.
Yeah,
a lot cooler than just some publicist and some label putting it out there on the DSPs for you.
Yeah. No, it's a different feeling, and I'm glad that one of my favorite things to see is when you can tell through the songs and how they're played and how they come out sounding how much the artist cares, and to see the hard work and effort that went into it and getting it out, and the album being as perfect as it is. Has fallen into my category of unskippables. There's not one song that I would ever turn off on that album. That it means so much, and you can tell how hard you worked on it for people to fall in love with it and to garner new fans, because you definitely have, just from that record alone, which is, this far along in your career, it has to be very satisfying as well.
Yeah, totally. But thank you for all the kind words there.
Now, do you have a band in your life that never lets you down? A band that you always turn to in good times and bad, that you just constantly find yourself always feeling attached to and wanting to listen to when you don't know what to listen to?
Oh boy.
You're allowed more than one. So
I was gonna say there's a lot. You said the band is one of them. The band, I was talking about this earlier. Elvis Costello and the Attractions, the Police are a big one for me. It's not a band, but Elliott Smith is a huge one for me.
Yeah.
Fugazi. Those are some of them that are sort of on my Mount Rushmore, so to speak.
How about the last song you cried to? Do you remember that?
Ugh.
Get a little sentimental here. So
the last song I cried to, holy jeez. It might have been, when Tom Petty died, I didn't expect it was lots of artists have passed. in our lifetimes, unfortunately. A lot of ones that mean a lot to us. But I've always been a big Tom Petty fan, but like I didn't realize how much we were all influenced by him. I mean, David and I once covered "Don't Come Around Here No More" on a compilation. But I've always been a casual fan. But man, when he died, I think I was like, I heard "The Waiting," and that just ripped me up. Like I never had felt that way when like a famous artist had died before, someone I didn't know personally.
It's weird. I had that, and I don't know why. Maybe because I was a drummer in a former life. And when Taylor Hawkins passed away, I cried, and I was like, and I even when I was crying, I go, "What the? Why am I crying? Why does this mean so much to me?" And it was just weird. I was like, I have no attachment other than loving music and having seen him perform. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on right now. My wife even looked at me and was like, "Are you okay?" I was like, I don't know what's going on right now. I may need to be medicated for some reason. This is one of those moments when you have to sit back and take stock,
Yeah, but I think it's that Taylor, I mean, I know Charlie has met him from the band. I mean, I know a lot of people that know Taylor, and it felt like one of us had died. I mean, it definitely, like I said, he's a little older, but he's sort of tangential to our sort of scene that we grew up in. So that one hit me hard too, even though, I don't consider myself like a Foo Fighters diehard or anything, but he played with Alanis Morissette. Like he was part of our upbringing. And that's what I was, about to say about Tom Petty is like, you didn't realize how much that guy has like, tattooed on your brain, the formula of like songwriting and songs.
He's on my Mount Rushmore of songwriting. Like he was that good. And I think he was, even though everybody knows the name Tom Petty, I think he was underappreciated for, what he actually did for music.
Sure. But he, again, a lot older than I am, but he's kind of been with me every step of the way, whether you wanted him to be there or not. Like those songs have just.
It's like herpes; you can never get rid of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But then you sit back and think, man, like a lot of those songs, like whether I realized it or not, like really touched me. So yeah, I think that there was a subconscious level at work when he died that really just like, twisted the knife a little bit into the heart.
All right, you got 5 minutes left to live. The world's going to be engulfed by a meteor, and you have to listen to one song before it all ends. What song do you listen to?
Oh, Jesus. I'm such a softie, but I'm a huge Peter Gabriel fan. But the greatest ballad, I think, if someone says like, "What's your favorite ballad?" I would say "Washing of the Water" by Peter Gabriel. It's just a sad breakup song, but it's one of my all-time favorites, and if it's the end of the world, I'm probably gonna listen to that song.
That's a great pick, man. Great pick. All right, how about, is there anything that you listen to that people would be really surprised because of the music you create, but something that you get tons of enjoyment out of that people would be really, really surprised that you're a fan of?
I mean, all things Stax and soul. I mean, my cousin Ronnie Caldwell was a member of Otis Redding's band, the Barkays, and perished in the plane crash with them. And not to drop project, wow. But I'm working on a documentary about that band. And but that record, Soulfinger, has been like part of my DNA for as long as I can remember. I think that would surprise some people because it's a 1967 sort of godfathers of funk and soul R&B record.
Oh, that's awesome. And I mean, now I can't wait for that documentary. Those are anything to do with music and there's a documentary on it. Doesn't matter what it is. I'm all in all the time. I love learning new stuff. So I need to be hip to that.
Yeah. I'll send you a teaser for it.
Nice. And where you are now in your life and your career and doing things like that, working in film and advertising and composing stuff. What was it How did you get into that from, being in a band? What was the stepping stone to get to where you are today in your professional life?
Well, ironically, it was being in a band because I was working at publishers and labels and doing some supervision and doing some stuff like that. But I met a guy, my friend Joe, when Chamberlain played the Bowery Ballroom in 2009, and Joe was like, "Hey, I work at this commercial music house, and they're looking for someone to take my gig. Do you want to interview for it?" And I was like, "Sure," because I was trying to leave my job. So, I actually turned down. Well, I don't want to get into it, but I turned down a job that was a much better job at a big record label because I was like, I can be in a studio and like learn things that I'd never really had the opportunity to learn. So, worked there, did a little bit of commercial music, and then because my experience there, my friend Andrew, who wasn't my friend at the time, had a mutual friend had shared a teaser about a film he was working on called Medora, which is about a basketball team in Indiana, a high school basketball team, and it was like a Kickstarter or a GoFundMe. And I emailed him because I loved the teaser so much. Like, hey, like I work at like a jingle house basically, but I want to try my hand at film. And we met up and really got along, and I ended up scoring a bunch of that film. And that's sort of how it all started because I enjoyed the process so much.
That's awesome. And did that satisfy your scratch for music and creating, because that's, what you do for a living now? Because I know sometimes when it becomes a job, a passion becomes a job, sometimes it can feel a little different, but do you still feel the same every day when you're going to create something new?
It depends on the project. I mean, yeah, yes and no. I'm guilty of caring too much, even if it's like, something for a insurance company. Like I'll still like put way too much to heart and soul into it, so to speak. When I've
Do you feel like you get in your own way by doing that sometimes, or?
Yeah, well, but then you're working with the client, and the client is always right, and there's that whole dynamic, which changes things. So it depends. If I'm working on a film, a doc, like I mostly do documentaries with a director that I like respect, and that ends up being the closest thing to like playing in a band, right? Because you're trying to tell a story and you're trying to convey an emotion, and you're working with other artists, and it scratches the itch for sure.
Yeah, and I think composition too, when it comes to stuff like that, I've tried to explain to people, and I've actually done it before too, by taking music out of some scenes in movies and documentaries, and it feels different without the notes behind it. Like it changes. And that's why I always say, cinema is its own thing, but the music in cinema is just as important as what you're watching on the screen at that time.
It is, and the general, golden rule of composing too is that like if you don't notice it's there, like you've done your job.
Yeah.
The worst scores are the ones that sort of stick out, like, with some exceptions, stick out like sore thumbs.
Yeah, there's ones like I've watched docs before, and there's just been music playing in the background throughout the entire thing. And then that's what I'm fixated on. I'm like, I can't even watch this. Like, cause now the music has taken over this entire, this background music has taken over the entire documentary. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, well, we could do a whole another podcast on this.
We'll set up a time to do that on composition and scoring.
Don't get me started. I'm restraining myself from going on a long tangent about film. But yeah, you're absolutely right.
But, well, it is a late Sunday night, and I appreciate you taking the time out. So before we get to our last segment, which is our weekly threes, what's next for Adam in the music world?
Like I said, I'm making this film about the Barquets. I'm working on some other ad stuff. I don't want to give you my whole resume, but yeah, I'm some stuff that I can't really talk about.
Okay.
But I also just finished writing my new record, which I am sort of in a little bit of pre-production with some other musicians. So I don't know when that's going to happen, and also you never know with Chamberlain stuff too, because there are a couple ideas floating around in the internet space that, you know, maybe when the timing's right, when there's another anniversary, when there's something like that, we'll get back on the horse, because the horse never seems to die.
Yeah, they call that foreshadowing, folks. So we could possibly have something in the future. But listen, before we get on to our weekly threes, I want to say a heartfelt, again, thank you so much for what you do as an artist, for what you've given me in my life with your music. Again, I don't know where I'd be without people like you, fulfilling my everyday with soulfulness and heart and energy and impactfulness with your music. So this is a true, heartfelt, honest, just want to say thank you to you for that, for all you've done.
Oh, thanks, Shane. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
So we are on to our weekly three segment. It's 3 things that you're listening to that you would like people to check out as well. Could be new, could be old, could be whatever you want, but 3 things you're listening to that you would like people to check out.
Oh my gosh. I have to well, I'm lucky I'm on my computer, so I can kind of like go through my Spotify.
That's what everybody usually pulls up, and that's fine, because that's where you're listening to music, so artists don't get paid, so it's cool.
I really love the new Bayonne record. Bayonne's sort of a electronic artist, does a lot of like live looping. He's not like an EDM guy. He's sort of like a hybrid, real organic sounds. I'm really loving his new record. I'm still looking for my recently played thing. But he comes to mind. Man, I really got to think about this one. You know, I've been listening to, well, as long as we're talking about the Barquets, you should check out Soulfinger by the Barquets, because it's a lesser known record from the Stax catalog, and it's been on my mind a lot because I've been working on this film, and it's a great one. What else? I don't want to draw a blank here. What else have I been listening to that's Mono Neon. If you don't know Mono Neon, he is the best bass player on the planet. He was in the last version of Prince's band. But Mono Neon's latest record is really something. I kind of look at him as like the next like Anderson .Paak, so to speak. He's great. But those are my quick 3 off the top of my head.
Awesome. No, they're a good 3. It gives us something new to listen to. Now it's time for my 3 for this week. My 3 for this week. My first one is a band called Loose Lips. The name of the album is Melancholia. It is a German rock band, just German rock band. Next is a band called Early Humans. They're an indie rock band from Tennessee. The name of the album is called A Wave. And last but not least, it may come to a surprise to some people, but this is a pop artist. Her voice, I don't know, it's what does it for me, and she writes really good songs. Her name is Rosie Darling, and the name of the album is Nails in the Coffin. So those are my 3 for this week.
Cool.
But Adam, again, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate all you've done throughout your career and continue to do. Can't wait for your new album and the foreshadowing of maybe anything that Chamberlain may have coming up in the years to come. But again, thank you so much for all it is that you've done.
Thank you. Awesome to talk to you.
You
have
too.
A great night.
Thanks. Everybody, you know what time it is. It's time to go out, listen to Chamberlain, Adam Rubenstein, and have a great fucking time.
There are wars I fought before you that brought me to my knees. They left scars that I can't show you, but they're real enough to me. And now my mind feels get through. Wondering where it's safe to go. 'Cause the slightest word misunderstood could cause them to explode. And still here you are. But this is not your war. No, this is not your war. So what are you fighting for? This is not your war. I've been weighted down with armor to hide old battle scars. Each one left by a past lover, fighting their way out of my heart. When I met you, I knew my fight was done. So I laid my armor down without thought to who's lost and who is won. Can I raise my white flag now and lay down this sword? No, this is not your war. No, this is not your war. Am I more than you bargained for? This is not your war. So beat your drums, blow your trumpets, take up arms from sea to shore. Take hostage my heart. This is not your war. Take hostage my heart. I will fight no more. Am I more than you bargained for?
Thanks again for tuning into the Hidden Tracks podcast. We hope you enjoyed this week's show. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at HiddenTracks99. Also, send all your submissions myhiddentracks99@gmail.com. Tune in next week. You may find your new favorite band. And don't forget to go out and have a great fucking time.